Well, good morning. I'm making breakfast here at the Madcap Bed and Breakfast, and I'm going to show you my simple cinnamon bun hack to make a gorgeous fruit-filled muffin, cinnamon roll bun. I don't know what to call it. I guess we could call it a cinnamon roll muffin. I've got apple, I've got brown sugar, cinnamon, and for fun, I've got some blueberries and some mini chocolate chips, and I'm going to cook these muffins in these beautiful ramekins, or 4-ounce ramekins, and I will line them with the parchment paper, and I get the extra large size. I'll put the links for some of these things below in the description because most of these things I've got on Amazon. I could just use my baking mat, but I'm going to cover it with parchment paper because, as you see, it's going to get kind of messy. And I'm going to show you 2 different versions of this. You can use pretty much any fresh fruit that you think would be yummy. I'm going to show you how to do it with the apples and the blueberries, but I also do it with strawberries as well, and that's really good too. So I'm just opening up my grand cinnamon rolls very carefully and taking out the little icing package, and I'll set it aside for now. And I'm going to separate these rolls as well. There's 5 in a package. I did try making them all at once by unrolling these as they were all still stuck together, but I found it was just too messy. So I prefer to do them one at a time, and I'm going to put on some plastic gloves too, just to keep the mess down so I don't have to keep running over and washing my hands. Now I'm opening up those parchment paper muffin liners, and I'm going to mix the cinnamon and the brown sugar together, and I'll mix it until it's all granulated and looks like just granulated sugar actually. And then I'm going to mix it with my apple slices. That is a half of an apple, a medium-sized apple, and I've cut it up into small pieces. And I'll just mix the sugar with that. Now I'm going to do 4 apple rolls, muffin rolls. And what I do, I'm going to start by unrolling each one by one, and I'll do it one at a time. And the reason I add the sugar is because you'll see some of the sugar that came with the Pillsbury cinnamon bun is going to get left on my parchment paper. So I like to add that sugar back in, and it's my own sugar, fresh sugar. I just know it's sugar and cinnamon. And you can't have too much of cinnamon and sugar in a cinnamon bun muffin. That's my feeling anyway. So I've spread out my apple slices, and now I'm just going to carefully position them so hopefully they'll stay in place as I roll this bun back up. But first I'm going to add some of these mini chocolate chips because, hey, why not? This is optional. You don't need to add the chocolate chips, but who doesn't like chocolate and apple together, especially with cinnamon? It's so good. So I'm just rolling it up, and any of these pieces that fall out, I just tuck them back in. And I find always that there's one side where the fruit is sticking out, like this side, and then one side where it's not so obvious. So the side that's not so obvious is going to be the top of my muffin, and the side where you can see some fruit will be the bottom. And I'm just going to clean up those chocolate chips by sticking them to the bottom, and they will be a nice little melted layer of chocolate at the bottom of my muffin. And I'm just going to position that onto the center of that parchment paper that I've opened up. And then I'm just going to push it all into the ramekin. And while I do that, I'm making sure that my muffin roll is at the bottom of the ramekin. And I'm just pushing it in. And I'll tidy up that parchment paper along the edges so there's no big folds. I'll just try to spread it out evenly. And I've done the other 4, but now I'll show you how to do the blueberries. And I've got a fresh piece of parchment paper because, like I said, this is a messy job, but it's very good. It's worth it, and it's fast too. So I've already done the other apples, so I've got some left over there, and I'm just going to get some of the sugar, and I'll add it to this last piece of cinnamon roll that's unrolled before I add the blueberries. And so I'll just spread it out evenly, and then I'm going to spread out my blueberries evenly, and I'm spacing them about 3/4 of an inch apart, and I'll just go right down the line, and I leave a little bit still rolled up at the center of my muffin. I don't unroll this piece of dough all the way. There's a little bit of a roll left at the end, and that just helps that center pop up like a muffin. So you don't want to roll it completely flat out. Leave a little bit of roll there where you can see my left hand. And I'm just adding some mini chocolate chips to this one as well. And once again, that's optional, but they're so good. So I've left a couple of blueberries, and you'll see why in a second. So I'm just going to roll that up, just pushing the blueberry into the center of that long string of dough. And then you can also just push the chocolate chips that fall out into the back of your roll as you're rolling along. You'll find that it's quite sticky. Once they're on the dough, they pretty well stay in place. And I'm rolling along. And so if I was doing strawberries, I would just slice up the strawberries into small enough pieces like the apple and roll them just like this, spacing them out like I'm doing with the blueberries. And so I'm going to pick the top of the muffin and the underside. So I've just pushed that little berry in, and I think that's going to be my top. And I'll just pick up some of those extra mini chocolate chips for the bottom and center on my parchment muffin liner that I've opened up, and just pushing everything down into place, and then pop it into the ramekin, making sure it goes all the way down to the bottom. And then I'll straighten up that parchment paper, just pull it out so there aren't any big folds. And you can just sort of fold it over the side of your ramekin. And I'm just going to pop in one of those blueberries in the center. That tells me that's the blueberry muffin, but it's a nice touch. So my oven is set for 350 degrees. I'm using my little toaster air fryer oven, and I've set it on the oven setting, and I'll just keep an eye on it. It's going to be about 20 minutes. It could be longer depending on the temperature of your oven. Just keep an eye on it. When it's getting close, you'll see the fluid there bubbling. You can see that on the blueberry one, and you want to just get it that nice golden brown color. And you take it out and let them cool down before you do the finishing touch. And of course, the finishing touch is to add the icing that comes with the Pillsbury cinnamon rolls. And you can decide to leave the icing off if you want. And also, I do wash those ramekins, and I'll put them back into the ramekin before serving. So with that parchment paper, they come out of the ramekin easily, and you can clean up the ramekins and put them back in. And I'll just pop that last blueberry on the blueberry roll muffin. And I'm just topping each one with a dollop of the icing. And I'll finish off the apple ones with some of the sprinkling of mini chocolate chips. And it just occurred to me that if you had colorful sprinkles and you were making these for kids, they'd probably like that instead of the chocolate chips alongside the apples or whatever fruit you're using. So I've cut it open, and this is what it looks like. Yummy, yummy. It's moist. It's so delicious. And you've got some nice chocolate on the bottom, which is so good. Icing on the top, melted chocolate on the bottom, and moist apple in the middle. And I'm going to show you what the blueberry one is like next when I finish eating half of the apple one. So we'll cut open the blueberry, and they always look a little different, but look at that. It's just full of lovely blueberry goodness. It's a sweet surprise, and your guests will love it. Or your family, whoever you make these for. It's such an easy thing to make, and they're so good. So cheers, time for coffee, and for a piece of blueberry cinnamon bun muffin. Yummy. Thanks for watching.